This revelation has rattled the true crime world, upending everything we thought we understood about when Celeste's fate was sealed. The video, taken during David's September 6 performance in Silver Spring, Maryland, seems to show a young girl resembling Celeste standing near the balcony section. If the girl was indeed her, the implications are staggering. It would mean Celeste was alive just days before authorities located David's abandoned Tesla in the Hollywood Hills with her decomposed body in the trunk. What first appeared to be nothing more than hazy, questionable footage might now represent the chilling evidence that narrows the final days of one of the most horrifying celebrity murder cases of our time. Blurry concert footage from one of David's shows, appearing to capture someone strikingly similar to Celeste Rivas, has set social media ablaze. But the FBI's latest revelation about this clip is even more unsettling. From a shifting timeline that rewrites the entire narrative to troubling questions about who really knew what, the case is unraveling in shocking ways. Here's the breakdown. FBI confirms David's girlfriend was allegedly seen at his September concert. In what investigators describe as one of the darkest twists yet, newly enhanced video shows David's 15-year-old girlfriend, Celeste Rivas, present at his show earlier that month. An eerie development that completely shifts the timeline of this already disturbing murder case.
New video footage of a girl believed to be Celeste at David's concert in late August has surfaced, which would be the last date she was seen alive, but the internet is divided on the latest update about this footage. A girl who looks a lot like Celeste was spotted at David's concert on either the 23rd or the 24th of August in Silver Spring, Maryland. She was up on the balcony on the side of the stage, watching on, and it's hard to deny that she resembles Celeste. She looks a lot like her.
The resemblance was undeniably strong. The girl in the clip had hair matching Celeste's from her missing persons photos. And most disturbingly, she wore a black tube top. The exact same style of clothing Celeste's body was discovered in inside David's trunk. Police reports make it clear this was not a random coincidence easily brushed aside. It was a detail that forced even the harshest skeptics to stop and pay attention. But the footage revealed even more. Sharp-eyed viewers noticed something haunting. David himself is seen pointing directly at the girl on the balcony, flashing what looks like half of a heart sign with his hand. The recognition and intimacy in that gesture shook everyone who watched it, suggesting not only that the girl was Celeste, but that David was publicly acknowledging her presence in a romantic way that would later be twisted into something far more sinister.
In another video, we see David pointing at the girl on the balcony while he makes a half heart. The guy she's standing next to is also David's brother, which raises even more questions, and particularly how much did he know about Celeste and David's relationship? Because if he's his brother and he's around backstage, going to concerts, hanging out with Celeste, he must know a lot about at least their relationship.
David's brother standing next to the girl added another deeply troubling element to the sighting. If the girl was Celeste, this would mean David's own family was not only aware of the relationship but actively present in situations where it was unfolding. That raised chilling questions about how many in his inner circle knew of his alleged involvement with the underage teen and what role they might have played in hiding it from authorities and the public. The timing of the sighting proved especially critical. The concert took place roughly 12 days before David's abandoned Tesla was retrieved from the Hollywood Hills, with Celeste's decomposed body found inside wrapped in plastic. Investigators had previously stated the body's advanced decomposition suggested she had been dead for weeks, if not longer. This new revelation threw that assumption, and the entire case, into doubt.
If that was her in the video, this raises the question of whether or not 12 days was enough time for her body to decompose to the state that it was in. Now, I'm no expert on this stuff, but I will say I was in LA during September during this time, and it was extremely, extremely hot. So the fact that she was in a trunk, closed up, wrapped in plastic in that heat, could potentially speed up the decomposition process, in my mind, but also according to ChatGPT.
The question of decomposition timing became a critical factor in analyzing this potential sighting. Could a body truly reach such an advanced state of decay in only 12 days? The scorching September heat in Los Angeles, combined with the airtight conditions of a car trunk and the body being wrapped in plastic, could indeed accelerate decomposition dramatically. If the concert footage was authentic, it would narrow the window of Celeste's death to an alarming degree, one that would likely implicate David himself as one of the last people to have seen her alive. Almost immediately, true crime communities and online investigators began dissecting the footage frame by frame, comparing every feature, gesture, and clothing detail for confirmation. The similarities were striking enough that even seasoned observers struggled to dismiss them. The girl's stance, her body language, and her ease in what should have been an overwhelming concert environment all suggested someone accustomed to David's shows, perhaps someone with a special connection to him. Yet as the footage continued to circulate under closer scrutiny, cracks began to form. Critics highlighted inconsistencies. The girl seemed older than Celeste's age at the time, and her height and build didn't perfectly align with the physical details in the missing person reports. These discrepancies complicated the narrative, but the resemblance remained strong enough to keep speculation alive and debates raging. The implications, if genuine, were staggering. This sighting would mean Celeste was alive, seemingly well, and still in David's presence just days before her body turned up in his car. That would have transformed the case entirely, from mysterious missing persons file clouded by foul play suspicions into an urgent, direct homicide investigation with David as the clear prime suspect. The footage also sparked unsettling questions about the dynamic between Celeste and David in her final days. If she was attending his concerts and receiving public acknowledgement from him on stage, the relationship may not have been as hidden as many initially assumed. Such openness, if real, would suggest David was either shockingly reckless about parading an illegal relationship in front of his audience, or that there were layers to their connection the public didn't yet grasp. As the video went viral, social media erupted with theories and heated debates. Armchair detectives uploaded side-by-side comparisons, digitally enhanced frames, and pored over every visible detail. The obsession was intense. For many, proving or disproving the sighting meant uncovering what could be the final, haunting glimpse of a teenage girl whose life ended in tragedy. But in the end, all of this analysis, all the theories, speculation, and emotional investment, was built on a misidentification that federal investigators would soon dismantle. The FBI's Bombshell changed everything. Just when the true crime community believed they had uncovered the smoking gun that would blow the case wide open,
amateur detectives created side-by-side comparisons, enhanced the video quality, and scrutinized every detail they could find.
The finality of the debunking was impossible to ignore. When TMZ, the very outlet that had fueled the concert footage theory, updated their coverage to clarify that the girl in the video was not Celeste Rivas, they cited a direct source tied to the case who had ruled out the identification with absolute certainty. This wasn't a vague dismissal or cautious phrasing. It was definitive, leaving no space for ambiguity or ongoing speculation. The credibility of the source, and their connection to the investigation, made it clear that law enforcement had already examined the footage in depth and closed the matter. Given the case's profile and the intense public scrutiny, federal investigators almost certainly combed through the footage with advanced methods, analyzing frames with facial recognition technology, consulting forensic video experts, and exhausting every angle. But what the FBI's debunking revealed was far more unsettling than a simple mistaken identity.
And now TMZ, who've posted and reported on these videos, has updated their article to say that the woman in the videos is not Celeste Rivas, according to a source that is connected to the case. So that could potentially be even a police officer that has already looked into this in their investigation. The fact that they very clearly made this update and blatantly said it is not her according to their source connected to the case makes it sound like they are absolutely sure.
The timing of the revelation adds even greater weight to its significance. Celeste Rivas had been missing since April 2024 from Lake Elsinore, California, when she was only 13 years old. By the time of David's August 2025 concert, she had been gone for over a year. If David was indeed involved in her death, his choice to spotlight someone resembling her on stage carried sinister undertones. This act could not be brushed off as coincidence. It hinted at a disturbing behavioral pattern. Was David deliberately provoking investigators and the public by parading a lookalike? Or was he intentionally sowing confusion, muddying the timeline to obstruct the investigation? Perhaps it reflected something even darker, a compulsive drive to surround himself with replacements who resembled the girl he was accused of victimizing. The case had already drawn lines connecting David and Celeste, identical tattoos etched on their right index fingers, and allegations that Celeste's mother had confirmed her daughter was seeing someone named David at the time she disappeared. These details had already sketched a disturbing picture of an illicit relationship between the 20-year-old musician and the underage teen. But the concert lookalike revelation layered on an even more disturbing psychological dimension, one that federal investigators took seriously enough to intervene and dismantle the theory at its core.
But what makes this even more eerie is that if it's not her, the fact that David was hanging out with a Celeste lookalike at a time that Celeste was probably already dead. This just makes my skin crawl.
The FBI's involvement underscored the seriousness of the potential charges David could face. Federal agencies typically step in when crimes cross state lines or involve offenses like kidnapping, sex trafficking, or murder for hire. David's tour had taken him across multiple states, and if investigators determined he transported Celeste during that time for illegal purposes, federal charges could follow. The confidence with which authorities dismissed the concert footage suggested they had access to evidence far beyond what the public had seen: digital records, witness testimony, or forensic data that mapped Celeste's movements with absolute precision. Their willingness to issue such a definitive statement indicated they weren't speculating. They had concrete proof of where Celeste really was during the period in question. The debunking also highlighted the fallibility of eyewitness claims and the dangers of social media-driven speculation in high-profile cases. Thousands of online sleuths had pored over the concert footage, convinced they were seeing Celeste. Yet professional investigators with advanced tools and expert analysis proved them wrong, underscoring the limits of crowdsourced detective work and how quickly misinformation can spiral. For David's defense team, this moment carried double-edged significance. On one hand, it erased a piece of evidence that could have tied him directly to Celeste near her time of death. On the other hand, it deepened troubling questions about his mindset. If David was deliberately surrounding himself with girls resembling Celeste while she was missing, that behavior could be interpreted as psychologically incriminating. Meanwhile, the fallout from the investigation had already begun: cancelled tour dates, severed sponsorships, and mounting public suspicion. His lawyers could point to the debunked sighting as proof that speculation was poisoning the case, making it impossible for him to receive a fair trial. But the FBI's involvement cut through that argument. Their decisive debunking signaled a measured, evidence-driven approach, untouched by the noise of social media or public outrage. That professional, methodical approach could ultimately serve justice, whether that means charges against David or the exposure of an entirely different suspect if the evidence leads elsewhere. Yet the emotional toll on Celeste's family cannot be overstated. For months, they had lived in limbo, desperate for clarity about her fate. The concert footage dangled a glimmer of hope, perhaps the last known sighting that could explain her final days. Its collapse left them shattered, back at square one, and still searching for answers. And in its place, a darker reality emerged: the possibility of a disturbing pattern in David's behavior, one that suggested this case was even more sinister than anyone first believed. That professional, methodical approach could ultimately serve justice, whether that means charges against David or the exposure of an entirely different suspect if the evidence leads elsewhere. Yet the emotional toll on Celeste's family cannot be overstated. For months, they had lived in limbo, desperate for clarity about her fate. The concert footage dangled a glimmer of hope, perhaps the last known sighting that could explain her final days. Its collapse left them shattered, back at square one, and still searching for answers. And in its place, a darker reality emerged: the possibility of a disturbing pattern in David's behavior, one that suggested this case was even more sinister than anyone first believed. While the true crime community was fixated on the possibility of Celeste Rivas being alive in late August 2025, the larger, far more sinister picture was quietly taking shape. The revelation that David may have been surrounding himself with girls resembling Celeste, even while the real Celeste was likely already dead, opened a disturbing door into psychological profiling and behavioral analysis. This wasn't just about mistaken identity, it suggested a compulsive pattern, one rooted in obsession and control. The broader investigation had already revealed alleged grooming behavior stretching back years. Federal agents uncovered evidence that David and Celeste had been in contact as far back as 2022, when she was barely 11 or 12 and he was 17. This chilling timeline painted a picture of predation that was deliberate, calculated, and far more entrenched than anyone initially understood.
David and Celeste telling the moderators to delete streams and clips and things. Watch this clip.
Maz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too? Wait.
Oh, look at it. Answer that one. That's so mean if you don't answer that.
The evidence of deliberate concealment and digital cleanup efforts painted a picture of someone who was acutely aware that their relationship with Celeste was inappropriate and potentially criminal.
Evidence of deliberate concealment and digital erasure only deepened the darkness. Investigators uncovered systematic deletions of streams, chats, and digital records, steps that pointed to someone who fully understood the criminal nature of the relationship. This was not the carelessness of a young adult making a reckless mistake, but the deliberate digital cleanup of someone who knew their actions were both illegal and damning. The lookalike incident, rather than standing alone, fit disturbingly well into a larger behavioral pattern criminal psychologists often associate with predatory offenders. The act of surrounding oneself with substitutes or reminders of a victim after their disappearance often reflects deep compulsions rooted in obsession, control, and unresolved fixation, none of which bode well for David's defense. Investigators also discovered evidence that David's own friends believed Celeste was his girlfriend but were under the impression she was 19. The deception was enabled by fake IDs, which made Celeste appear older than she actually was, 13 to 15 during the alleged relationship. This was not a coincidence but a calculated cover-up. The procurement of false identification documents requires planning, resources, and intent. It suggested that David wasn't just hiding Celeste's true age from strangers but also from his own inner circle. Convincing friends and associates that she was legally an adult reinforced the illusion of legitimacy, while in reality, it concealed a carefully orchestrated grooming operation that was far from spontaneous. Instead of laying low or showing any visible signs of guilt over a missing girl he was allegedly involved with, David carried on touring, performing, and surrounding himself with women who resembled his alleged victim. Such behavior pointed to one of two possibilities: either a complete absence of empathy and remorse, or a deeper psychological compulsion driving him to keep reminders of Celeste close. Federal investigators had executed search warrants at David's Hollywood Hills home, specifically targeting potential blood evidence and forensic traces that might connect him to Celeste's death. The very fact that warrants were obtained and carried out indicated probable cause, suggesting authorities had reason to believe crimes occurred there and that David was implicated. Reports confirmed that investigators seized electronic devices and additional evidence, though the details remained sealed from public view. Security cameras on the property could also prove pivotal, providing hard evidence about who entered and exited the home during the crucial window when Celeste was missing. At the same time, disturbing elements of David's music resurfaced under new light. Fans began reinterpreting his lyrics, once seen as darkly artistic, as potential confessions. His breakout hit Romantic Homicide and other tracks contained recurring themes of violence, possession, and control over women, themes that now seemed chillingly consistent with the allegations. Even more unsettling, Romantic Homicide had been uploaded on Celeste's birthday, an act many now speculated was either an intentional signal or a subconscious expression of guilt tied to their relationship. The concert lookalike debunking also underscored the dangerous dual role of digital platforms. The same online tools that may have allowed David to groom and manipulate Celeste were now fueling misinformation, spreading speculation that threatened to cloud the investigation. What had started as fan obsession quickly turned into viral theories, some of which risked interfering with justice. Yet while social media blurred the lines of truth, the legal consequences facing David loomed much larger. The career fallout, cancelled tours, dropped sponsorships, was nothing compared to what federal investigators were building. If prosecutors could prove his involvement in Celeste's disappearance and death, David could face charges ranging from homicide to federal trafficking crimes, charges that carry the potential for life in prison. The steady collapse of David's career only reinforced how seriously the allegations were being taken. High-profile appearances were cancelled, his name scrubbed from events, and even his own record label suspended promotional efforts. For an industry built on profit, such measures suggested insiders believed the accusations were credible enough to warrant cutting ties. But while David's empire crumbled, Celeste's family was left in anguish. The FBI's definitive debunking of the concert footage extinguished the fleeting hope that the clip had captured her last known moments alive. Instead, her parents and loved ones remained trapped in uncertainty, desperate for answers about her final days. The case stands as a stark reminder of how predators can exploit fame, wealth, and influence in the digital era, preying on vulnerable minors in ways that leave devastation not just for victims, but for their families and communities as well. The incident also underscores the critical difference between professional investigation and social media speculation. The concert footage case showed how quickly the public can be misled by surface-level resemblances and hopeful assumptions. Federal investigators, however, work with evidence, not theories, and their findings suggest this case may extend far beyond a single victim or a single perpetrator. Patterns of grooming, possible involvement of associates, and deliberate attempts to destroy or conceal evidence point to the potential existence of a broader network of exploitation. Instead of offering resolution, the concert lookalike revelation deepened the mystery, raising disturbing new questions about David's state of mind and the true scope of his alleged crimes. As investigators push forward, the world waits for answers, not only about what happened to Celeste Rivas, but about how someone could commit such horrific acts while presenting himself as a rising star whose music resonated with millions.